Hi, everybody. Dave Walker here again. Welcome to this session that really is focused on, again, yet another aspect of digital transformation that we see taking shape this past year among small business. So I've invited Jason Dice from Pitney-Bowes. Welcome, Jason.
Thanks. Good to be here, David.
Did I pronounce your last name correctly?
You got it correct, Dice. Everyone's last choice of pronunciation, but you were spot on.
I have a German wife, so I kind of know how those things get pronounced. Listen, thanks for being here. And as I tell all our guests, I don't presume that everyone knows all the things that you sell currently at Pitney-Bowes, but tell us a little about yourself, about your team that you work with, and
Sure.
Tell us about the portfolio of Pitney-Bowes these days.
Yeah, sure. Well, it's great to be here. I am the Executive Vice President and President of Pitney-Bowes' Sending Technology Solutions. So in this role, I'm responsible for growing Pitney-Bowes' business, where we focus on enabling businesses of all shapes and sizes really to reduce cost, simplify, and improve their business critical shipping and mailing solutions. And for those of you who don't know much about Pitney-Bowes or don't know about us recently, we are a 100-year-old global technology company. We provide commerce solutions that power billions of transactions for our clients. We have clients around the world, including 90% of the Fortune 500, who rely on the accuracy and precision delivered by our solutions in the shipping, mailing, e-commerce fulfillment, and return space. And as you pointed out here, one of our real sweet spots in the part of the business I run is actually supporting about 1 million small and medium business clients around the world. Wow. At Pitney-Bowes, we have 100 years track record servicing these small and medium businesses, and we help them save time and money by taking the complexity out of shipping and mailing. It's pretty much that simple. We also have a range of financial solutions we provide them. And we take great pride, given that history and given that client base, we take great pride in the thought leadership we bring to the table in both the shipping and mailing space, as well as the SMB space in general.
So I said that we wanted to talk about transformation, and obviously from your perspective, you are so intimately connected to 1 million small businesses. You've seen a lot of transformation happen this last year, but can you kind of give us a sense of the arc of the beginnings of the pandemic, the mid stages of the pandemic, where it is now? What are the big changes that you're seeing amongst your small business customers?
Yeah, it's been a rough year for small and medium business. There's no question about that. I think 2020 definitely accelerated a few of the changes that were already underway across our industry. You have the basic things that we'd all think of, the permanent practices that are now required relating to safety and hygiene, a lot of which, by the way, will stick around for a heck of a long time. Mm-hmm. The other big one was that shift to remote working for a lot of small and medium businesses, coming out of even mid-sized offices and going fully remote, has been something that's going to have a pretty lasting impact. In fact, I point out a PwC study recently that said that even after the threat of the pandemic recedes, about 72% of office workers have said that they want to continue to work from home at least 2 days a week. So, that change going to remote requires a huge set of, or creates a huge set of problems for small and medium businesses in particular. There is a challenge around where do you get work done? How do you get work done in remote environments? Great example in my space is when you talk about shipping and mailing on my side of the bit ledger, doing that now in a remote environment, doing it with the same confidence and that you're going to drive cost savings and have the ability to watch and manage costs in what is now really a very diverse and dispersed environment becomes a huge challenge. The other challenge or the other opportunity, depending on how you look at IC, that's really a big change from what we've seen in 2020 is just the shift to online commerce and online shipping, online shopping. That is a critical change for all small businesses that is here to stay. It drives a whole set of new technologies that are required to support those different consumer experiences and consumer needs. For example, SMBs are going to need to leverage the technology in different ways to be able to meet those changing consumer expectations and consumer needs. Again, I'll use the my space as the example. SaaS-based sending technologies and software are now helping SMBs in this distributed environment, continue to provide visibility into costs and how they can really create different, intimate relationships with their clients in a world that's requiring that in a remote capacity much more than ever before.
So, that sounds like, I mean, you guys obviously have a very good fingertip feel for what's going on in small business, but you took it one step further and did something that I read about recently called the BOXpoll. Could you kind of unpack for us that box and tell us, how did it start? What was it intended to do? And what did it tell you?
Yeah, the BOXpoll is really interesting. So BOXpoll is short for Best Order Experience Poll, which is something that we started this past year. The BOXpoll is a source of information for anyone involved in e-commerce, really. It is a regular survey. We publish it monthly that we use to highlight insights in the e-commerce industry and really consumer behaviors in general. The data is based on consumer surveys that we put out there. Really goes direct to consumer. Has questions around current events, culture, and their impact on their shopping behaviors, both on how they seek and get goods and services, but also then what do they expect from the e-commerce logistics engine behind that delivers it to them. We will be updating the BOXpoll on a regular basis, monthly, especially as we head into peak shopping season here at year end. And there are a lot of really interesting findings that are out there. And again, Dave, as you said, it really speaks to some of the changes that these small businesses are going through. And I'll just give you a couple and we can talk about them. But the first one is kind of, the first one I'd highlight at least is kind of expected. And that is that more than half of consumers, so 54%, report shopping online more often compared to pre-pandemic. So that's not particularly surprising. What's interesting then is the second question, which is about 3/4 of those polled, about 73%, actually say they're enjoying it more than expected, which indicates that that's a change that's likely here to stay. Another great stat that we found for SMBs in particular is nearly a third, almost a third, 28% of consumers overall, and 40% of Generation Z consumers are actually spending more time researching and looking for new brands, new sites that they've never visited before. So, while we all think that the e-commerce boom over the pandemic period has really benefited the huge box players, and that's true, right? Over half of the respondents said that they were shipping more at Amazon. A third said they were shopping more at Walmart. Really 1 in 4, so 25%, are actually still shopping or looking for these new small or local business experiences, which is really an important thing to remember. And so when you think about what that means for SMBs, it's then how do you capture that spend or how do you capture that demand? And it really becomes important to think about that shopping experience. One of the things that the BOXpoll tells us is that value wins over values, right? So 3 in 4 shoppers pick easy order experiences. So they're really focused on things like free shipping, fast shipping, or returns. That speaks to the need to respond to evolving client needs or evolving consumer needs over time. One of the interesting findings for SMBs in particular is that the economic growth shows no signs of slowing down as we go into the holiday period. And in fact, one of the things that I found most interesting as you look at this is, we asked clients, is this kind of here to stay? So we said, we asked a bunch of questions trying to figure out, are these behaviors going to stay? One of the things that was really interesting is that 71% of the people who responded said that they believe that they're going to have another pandemic in their lifetime, right? Only 18% said they wouldn't. So again, as you think about these changes, and there's some really profound ones, again, I'll give you another one. 45% of consumers now are saying they're doing over half their shopping online. That's 3x what it was pre-pandemic. A lot of things are going to be here to stay.
And that's a great, I appreciate you laying it out as not just this is what you're observing, but the permanency of these changes. Because I think that's frankly what's on a lot of people's minds is particularly in our ecosystem of business to small business offerings of, okay, how long is this transformation really going to take hold? I mean, is it really just kind of a temporary thing or permanent thing? And what I hear you saying is that particularly in this first BOXpoll that you've done that you would say, yeah, it's permanent. These are things that are kind of sea changes that are going to stay old.
Look, I think there's two parts of it, right? And we've talked about each of these, but clearly the shift to different working arrangements is here to stay. I mean, I feel it in my business. I'm sure everyone who's participating in this event is feeling it in theirs. And so really that first question of how do you create or how do you utilize technologies that allow you to sustain the benefits you had of being in a centralized environment where you had lots of controls and those types of things? How do you use technology differently to maintain those same controls, keep having that same, analytics and data and cost controls in a distributed environment becomes really important long-term. And then, the more profound change though, is really that commerce change, how people are shopping, how they're buying, how they're looking for goods and services. That's really profound. And actually at Pitney, we did another piece of work. We've been doing something called the Global Parcel Index. We've been doing it for about 5 years now. And it looks at the other side. So think about BOXpoll as doing consumer surveys. The Global Parcel Index really looks at the data, from the logistics companies out there. And it looks at kind of what are the trends in shopping in general and in parcels in general. And a couple interesting things I'll just hit. It'll kind of put this into context. In 2019, for the first time, we hit over 100 billion parcels shipped across the globe. So that is a huge stat. Just to put that in perspective, that's about 3,200 parcels being shipped per second around the world.
That's amazing.
One of the things we looked at is we try to project outwards. So if you think about 103 billion parcels in 2019, we expect that to double, if not triple, by the time you get into 2026. So just a huge uptick in the amount of online commerce, which creates opportunities for SMBs as long as they know how to access it and how to get after it.
So talk, if you will, about what gaps you guys are observing in small businesses' capability to kind of meet the moment of adoption of e-commerce's back end, running that successfully, creating a good consumer experience online, all those things that I think you guys are advancing with products and services. How well do you think small businesses are doing with those things?
Yeah, look, I think it's a learning time for them in a lot of ways. And one of the interesting things is you see that small businesses are starting to react differently to the opportunities in front of them. So one of the things that we did this year is we actually, for our 100th anniversary, we actually announced a new product that we call SendPro Mail Station, and it's part of a larger family we call SendPro. And SendPro really helps clients, make sure that they are maximizing their cost savings and their efficiencies and creating intimate experiences with their end users as part of that shipping process. And so to your point, one of the things that small businesses are needing to do now is they're needing to rethink how can they continue to drive the same amount of cost savings and efficiencies when they're no longer in that consolidated environment, and how do they create these new consumer experiences that are going to let them brand themselves in different ways. And so in my space, I'll just keep using my space as the example. SendPro really lets clients do that. It brings kind of the enterprise level capabilities down to small and medium businesses. It brings those enterprise capabilities down in a way through these SaaS capabilities that allows them to work more effectively in these distributed environments. And at the end of the day, it gets them thinking about how do they create those intimate client experiences, which are so important in this remote and virtual world.
So, I mean, I think that many in our space would agree that small businesses don't approach any growth or transformation as an adoption of technology. It's really more of a problem to be solved. And,
Yeah.
and what problems do you think that small businesses are going to need to solve for as we get into 2021 and beyond?
Yeah, again, it's a couple, and I'm sounding a bit like a broken record here. I mean, the problem is how do you continue to run your business in an efficient way when you don't have quite the same controls that you would if everyone was sitting in the same office together, right?
Right. Right.
And so using technology in different ways, really leveraging data and analytics in ways that you haven't before will become even more critical for small and medium businesses. And then even those businesses that can transition effectively to a more remote working environment, as you think about especially how they interact with their clients, how they create those client experiences, being responsive to what is a rapidly evolving set of consumer needs becomes really important, right? And so that flexibility of being able to understand what consumers are actually asking for, making sure that you can compete effectively in that space becomes really important.
Yeah, I don't think you're being repetitive at all. I think it just demonstrates there's a through line here, that there
Yep.
really is a lot of connective tissue between, what's being forced on them in the form of transformation, but also kind of how they're going to get there exactly in that transformation.
Yeah, I mean, one of the things that you're seeing here is there is tremendous opportunity. I mean, I talked about those stats earlier. A quarter, you know, people get concerned that Walmart and Amazons of the world are gobbling up all the opportunity, and it's patently not the case, right? If you think back to the stats I mentioned earlier, a quarter of clients are looking for experiences or buying from SMBs today. You pair that with the explosion that you're seeing in online shopping and e-commerce, it is a huge opportunity for small and medium businesses. You see it even more pronounced in the younger generations. That Gen Z stat I said, 40% are looking for new brands. It is a tremendous opportunity, right? Just given it's the sense of all the rising tide lifts all boats to some degree, but how you differentiate in that environment, and then equally important, how you survive the downturn long enough to be able to take advantage of that environment becomes really important.
Right.
Which, by the way,
Yep.
which by the way is why one of the things that's most critical right now for small and medium businesses is having some level of support around financial opportunities, right? So one of the things we've done at Pitney-Bowes is we've launched a whole bunch of services and capabilities to try to help small and medium businesses navigate this new environment. Very early in the pandemic, we launched something called the Way Forward, which was a set of resources. It's a hub, it's experiences, case studies, it's recommendations that it was, for example, how do you access government funds? It was all types of information to try to help small and medium businesses navigate what was a massive and very sudden downturn. And then secondly, we've come out with a bunch of financial offerings that try to help small and medium businesses, bridge the gap until they can start to take advantage of some of their stuff, right? Working capital becomes really important in times of downturn, and that's something that we've tried to address with some of our financial services offerings at Pitney.
That's terrific, because I think large brands like yours, successful brands like yours, stepping up and stepping in, in that area of financial support was so needed for small business. Do you see yet a migration or an opening of small businesses' ability to sell outside of this country? Do you see them doing a better job of selling globally?
It is interesting. You're starting to see pieces of it, right? You see it a lot more through marketplaces, right? So through aggregators like eBay, Etsy, Amazon, it kind of opens up broader markets for folks. We have a set of services at Pitney-Bowes. I mentioned our e-commerce fulfillment services. So we have a special part of our organization that focuses on just what you're talking about, helping small and medium businesses navigate that transition to global markets. It is coming. I would say that there are a lot of things out there today that let small and medium businesses compete with the big boys. You just got to know how to access it. But there is a world of opportunity out there. And certainly, if you look at those numbers of parcels that are being shipped around the world, it's pretty impressive.
It's a staggering number. 300,000 a minute. 300,000 a minute is just
3,200 a second.
a second, rather. Oh my God.
3,200 parcels a second.
By
the way, that was last year. That doesn't even include the growth this year.
Because I'm sure the numbers had to expand exponentially, right, this year because of all the demand placed. So you've already done a lot with your product offering and your support of small businesses this year. But my question, I guess, is, are the conditions that have taken shape this year, do they give you kind of a clear roadmap of where you're going to take your product offering, your service offering, your technology?
Yeah, I think there's a lot you can look forward and extrapolate to, right? So
Hmm.
as we've done with our Send Pro family, making sure that set of products and capabilities is really adapted to a new small, medium business environment becomes really important. So as you think about features and capabilities, there is a whole new set of environments that you've got to now be able to take care of and adapt to.
Hmm.
This notion for us on the Pitney side of being able to bring enterprise level capabilities down to small and medium businesses is really how we're thinking about our product sets as we look forward into the future. And I think it's only become more important post COVID as the small and medium businesses have had even more of a struggle figuring out how they're going to leverage technology to that end.
So you've been in this business for as long as I have. I mean, do you worry about small businesses' ability to effectively make the kind of transformation they do? I mean, we were disappointed about their internet adoption, and then
Yeah.
we were disappointed about their mobile adoption, and then we were disappointed about their e-commerce adoption. Is there finally the right, I guess, uh, compelling evidence for small business to just get to it, get it done, get where they need to get?
Yeah, look, I mean, that is a tough thing to answer, and I'm going to pause here for a second as I think about what I want to say about it. But there is no doubt small and medium businesses have had an incredibly rough ride, and by the way, that rough ride is not over.
Right.
That said, I've been impressed and in many ways humbled by their resilience, their
Mhm.
ability to adapt and pivot when they needed to pivot. Although many have faced adversity, across their journeys, it's likely the toughest time that they've ever faced right now.
Mhm.
So, but if there is a silver lining in this, what you see in the global parcel index and what you see in that BOXpoll survey is you see that there's still a huge opportunity out there for small and medium businesses. The e-commerce growth rate is just astounding, right? That creates opportunities. It creates opportunities for small and medium businesses. Think about those Generation Zers who are going to continue to shop in different ways. And that becomes a place for SMBs to step in and try to create differentiation and try to create differentiation that will drive business to them. The truth of the matter is, especially in this country, there are 30 million small and medium sized businesses. They employ
Mhm.
almost 60 million people. We have to have them be successful. And so it's incumbent on companies like Pitney-Bowes and our peers to make sure that we're doing everything we can to support them and enable them to make that transition effectively.
Well, I certainly think they appreciate it a great deal. As many of your partners are trying to peers rather are trying to do exactly the same thing, trying to help them really accelerate that transformation. This has been terrific, and I appreciate your perspective. I think in the context of the senior leadership of Mastercard talking about transformation and of Verizon talking about transformation, and in the context of this group of sessions we're doing on small business transformation. This has been a great addition because it's yet from another angle of how small businesses are getting the work done of changing to meet the moment that they've been placed in. So much
Dave,
appreciated.
I've enjoyed it. I appreciate it. Yeah, I appreciate it very much. Thanks for having me on.
I appreciate it. Thanks a lot.